Hi, this is Tuscarora. So we're going to talk about scientific method and laboratory equipment. But before we get started, I want you to watch the Monty Python video that's located on my website under the first Unit 1 video. So hypothesis is an educated guess. Basically, it's going to we use observations to predict an outcome. For instance, like we can see around this classroom that our lab benches are black, they're shiny, they're smooth. Those are some observations. Format is if I change my independent variable, then the dependent variable will change. So an example of this is like, for instance, in biology, we had a bunch of plants maybe. Let's say we change the fertilizer. So I changed the fertilizer. What could change because I changed the fertilizer? Maybe plant growth, or maybe they're shinier. That's a dependent variable. Another example of an independent variable could be, let's say I have water and I put different amounts of sugar in it. So if I increase the sugar, then my density will change. So I change the sugar, independent variable, and then the density changed because of what I did. So that's a dependent variable. So repeated trials. We always want to do more than one trial. So ideally, we would want to do it 3 times. This reduces random errors. Unfortunately, we usually do not have time to do 3 trials, so we usually end up only doing it once. But in an ideal situation, we would do it 3 times. Observations are something we note about what we're doing. So let's say I have a chemical reaction, it turned red, it was smelly, there was a lot of gas, then that would be some observations. Maybe around the classroom, we can talk about the desks, they're brown, they have shiny metal, things like that. Data, we always record our observations during an experiment. So whatever I'm seeing, smelling, touching, if it's safe to touch, then we would record it. So there are 2 types of observations. There's qualitative versus quantitative. So qualitative are things we see, or like, for instance, whether or not iron is present in the water supply. Quantitative is always a number. So how many, how much. So for instance, how much iron is in the water supply. So let's go back to our variables. We have our 2 kinds, independent, what I changed, and dependent is what changed because of what I did. So your independent variable is what I changed. If we were going to graph it, it would be on the x-axis, so that's straight across. And dependent variable is what changed because of what I did, so it's up and down. So let's say if I change percent sugar in water, then the density would change. So the percent of sugar would go on the x-axis across, and then the y-axis would have the dependent variable. So constants are things that remain unchanged throughout an experiment. So maybe pressure, air temperature, things like that. Control is the thing we compare things to. So let's say I'm talking about sugar water. So an example of a control would be the water. So just water with no sugar. Maybe if we were talking about the plants again, we were changing the fertilizer, maybe the control would be the plant without the fertilizer.
Inconceivable! Yes!
Get there!
It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
Hey,
Have we learned our lesson?
Inconceivable!
Alrighty then.
Yes! Yes!